Hey, what's going on? Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today I will be talking about different running back options for the New York Jets in free agency. Before we get started today, I just wanted to mention you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. If you haven't already, please make sure to check out the podcast wherever it is you get your podcast or right here on the YouTube channel. New episodes drop every Monday, and last but not least, check out the merch store in the description below. All right, so kind of like what we did with the wide receivers, we'll talk about some big fish, some mid-tier options, and some bargain bin choices for the New York Jets. So we will start with the big fish and probably the biggest fish of them all, Aaron Jones, the running back from the Green Bay Packers, who is just 26 years old. Now, he's coming off a really good year for the Green Bay Packers, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5.5 yards per attempt, and in the receiving game, 355 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And realistically, he is a perfect fit for this New York Jets offense. The LaFleur brother, obviously up there in Green Bay, they're going to run a similar system offensively, and he's obviously thrived. The thing is, he is going to be extremely costly, probably $14 or $15 million a year. And I don't know about you, but I do not want to pay a running back $14 or $15 million, especially after what happened with Le'Veon Bell. I understand Le'Veon Bell was a little bit of a different situation. This is nothing against Aaron Jones, who will get a big payday, and deservingly so. I just don't think the Jets are in the position to do that. I understand they have a lot of, resources with the cap this year, but in this offense especially, I think they can get a lot out of the running back position, and I don't really see a need for spending big in free agency on the position. So while Aaron Jones is a really good player and would be a fit for the offense, I would be stunned if Joe Douglas does this. I think we are more likely to see a mid-tier option, spoiler alert, or someone in the mid-rounds. So Aaron Jones, while a good player, I don't think is going to come to the New York Jets. Same for the next guy on my list, Kenyan Drake, who is 28 years old, 955 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4.0 yards per attempt. Gase did not know how to use this guy in Miami, but he became a really solid running back in Arizona. He's a good, not great player, probably be around $8 million a year. And again, he's fine, but I just don't think the Jets are going to be spending that kind of money at the running back position. I could be wrong, but based off what we've seen from Joe Douglas, I don't think he's going to allocate a ton of assets into this position in free agency. So while Kenyan Drake is an okay player, he's a little bit older at 28, so I'd probably want to avoid him as well, especially for the cost. The last big fish that I will talk about, and you're going to notice a trend here, I don't think I would pay him either, is Chris Carson, who's going to turn 27 years old. He had 681 yards last year and 5 touchdowns in 12 games, 4.8 yards per attempt. But he's had a ton of usage and a ton of miles on him in 2018 and 2019. He had over 200 carries in both of those years. I'm really all good spending money on guys who have got a boatload of carries. He's probably going to cost you around $8 million. Again, good running back, probably a 900 or 1,000 yard running back in a full season. But I just don't think I'm willing to bank on that for in a longer term deal for the money it's going to cost. At his age, with his mileage, I'm going to pass on this one as well. Now to the mid-tier guys. We'll spend a little bit more time here because I think this is where the Jets are going to go. My favorite of the mid-tier bunch is Jamal Williams. Yes, the other running back in Green Bay. He's just 26 years old. He's coming off a season with 505 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. But he averaged over 4 yards a carry. He was at 4.2. The guy never fumbles, has not fumbled once in his 4-year career. He is also really good in pass protection, and he is a scheme fit because he knows this offense, ran it with the other LaFleur brother, again, like I said, in Green Bay, and he's going to cost you maybe $4 million a year. So if you're telling me I compare Jamal Williams with LaMichael P. Ryan and Ty Johnson, I think that's more than capable from your running back room. I would expect the Jets to go running back by committee for this upcoming year. Jamal has done that well. He's been a nice change of pace for what they use with Aaron Jones. I think they're probably more likely to want to keep Aaron Jones. I don't think both of these guys are going to be retained. So they also just drafted A.J. Dillon last year. So I think they're more than comfortable letting one, if not both of these guys go. And I would think Jamal Williams would be a great fit for this offense. I'd like him a lot. Next up is James Conner. He had 721 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, and a 4.3 yards per attempt. Now, he's probably going to cost about $5 million, $6 million in that range, but I'm a little bit wary of the Pittsburgh backs who have gotten a ton of usage and a ton of miles on him. I don't think he's phenomenal. I think he's okay. The Pittsburgh rushing attack kind of struggled at points this year. Maybe it's just because I'm burned by the Le'Veon Bell thing, but I just don't think the Jets are going to go to the well again and bring in a guy like James Conner. I think they're going to go for a little bit of a smaller name. While Conner is still a mid-tier running back option, probably because of what he's going to get paid. There's still the name recognition, especially for when he came on and replaced Le'Veon Bell, and was pretty solid that year. But the last 2 years have been Okay, so I don't think the Jets are going to go this direction. Now, this next guy on my list and my last mid-tier guy, I'm intrigued by because he's still just 25 years old, and that's Marlon Mack. Yes, he missed last year with an injury, really only played one game, but the 2 years prior, he was really good. Had over 1,000 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, and 4.4 yards per attempt. The year prior, 908 yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, and a 4.7 yards per attempt. He's probably going to cost you, I don't know, $3-4 million. And to me, I think if you pair him with those two guys the Jets already have, and Ty Johnson, Lamichael Pirine, to me, Marlon Mack and Jamal Williams should probably be the way the Jets are leaning. I like both those guys a ton, and I think that's the direction. If the Jets decide to go some way in free agency, it'll be with a mid-tier guy like that. To the bargain bin we go, and both of these guys that I'm going to talk about have a San Francisco connection. So no, they're not my favorite options, but the San Francisco connection might get me to be okay with one of these two guys. The first is Tevin Coleman, who's going to be 28 years old for next year. He didn't play much last season, but in 2019 with the 49ers, he had 544 yards, 6 touchdowns, and a 4.0 yards per attempt. His career yards per attempt is 4.2. It's only going to cost maybe like $1 million or $2 million bucks. I wouldn't go this route, but if LaFleur and Saleh really want this guy to bring him in as a veteran, okay, maybe they do it. And the last guy on my list is Matt Brita. He's just 26 years old. Last year, he had 254 yards on 59 attempts, which is a 4.3 yards per attempt. The last 2 years before that, he averaged 5.1 and 5.3 yards per attempt. Again, the San Francisco connection, he's a couple years removed from an 814-yard rushing season and a 5.3 yards per attempt. He got a small deal in Miami the last year and didn't really do all too much. So I think you probably get him for like $1 million, something like that. If you take a flyer on him, maybe. I wouldn't go this direction personally, but I could kind of see the logic behind going the bargain bin route and seeing if you can get something. And maybe they like Ty Johnson or Lamichael Pirine and are willing to lean on one of those guys, and Brita could just be there for insurance. Maybe that's the direction that they'd want to go. But I really think it's going to be a mid-tier option. I'd be surprised if it was one of the big three I led with. But let me know in the comments down below who you would like. Did I leave someone off the list that you think the Jets should pursue? Let me know, or on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. Subscribe if you are new, and I'll talk to you next time.